It was really hard because I got diagnosed when I was 19. And when I got diagnosed when I was 19, I was also in university. So it was really hard. It's like, what do I focus on? My health or my education? And it was really hard because I didn't have a diagnosis my entire year in second year. So walking to my classes was horrible because a lot of the times I would have to sit on the sidewalk because my legs just couldn't keep me up. So I was struggling a lot with the walking, and then my incontinence also kicked in too. And I was like, okay, something is clearly wrong with me, but I don't know what it is. It came a point where I actually diagnosed myself with a tumor. I feel like a lot of us MSers have done that at a point. But my sister was actually with me, and she goes, does she have multiple sclerosis? And he was like,
Pree, welcome to the MS Mindset. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, really good. Thank you for not only jumping on for the first episode that I've done in a while, but it's your first sort of podcast that you've done ever. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for making us your first. I appreciate this channel, our first. I came across you via like YouTube, and you create content on Instagram because you are like me. You live with multiple sclerosis. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say, is that right? I know that's right. That's why we're on here. I don't know. I feel like I'm nervous. I'm rusty. I don't know. So like what we tend to do on here is just like talk about your journey and what that was like diagnosis, and we'll obviously talk a good bit about YouTube because that's what we both enjoy. Yeah. And then I dare say I'm going to have tons of questions with Ted Nosy about Canada as well because you're based in Toronto.
This is making me a little nervous because when you said you're going to ask me questions about Canada, I was like, I'm kind of an homebody, but I'll try.
I was like, is it fun? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is there loads of hockey? Can I come? It'll be stuff like that. Don't worry. So yeah, I suppose we could just start with the heavy stuff, get out of the way. But it would be cool if you could maybe share what your sort of diagnosis experience was like, because you're only young, and it can affect people in different ways. So what was that like for you?
It was really hard because I got diagnosed when I was 19. And when I got diagnosed when I was 19, I was also in university. So it was really hard. It's like, what do I focus on? My health or my education? And it was really hard because I didn't have a diagnosis my entire year in second year. So walking to my classes was horrible because a lot of the times I would have to sit on the sidewalk because my legs just couldn't keep me up. And this was probably like 5 minutes into walking as well. So it was really traumatizing for me because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought it was in my head. And it was really hard because it's like, see, I'm already having brain fog.
But that's okay. This is the best place to get brain fog because it's cool. It's cool. We understand.
It's like, it was hard for me because it was like, I just didn't know what to do. So then when I went to the doctors, they told me I was fine. They had me walk in that straight line that was about 5 meters long. And they were like, yeah, you're completely fine. But I was like, I don't feel fine though. And he's like, why don't you feel fine? And I was like, because I can't walk for longer than 5 minutes. Something feels off. And then my vision was also, I didn't have nystagmus at the time, but my vision was really hard because everything was just shaking a lot. And I don't wear glasses either. So I never had issues with my vision. So I was like, I feel like I had perfect vision. And then suddenly it was just, everything just felt like it was just going downhill for me. And then at a point I was just like, maybe it's because I started university. Well, I mean, it was my second year. I was like, maybe it's because I'm getting overwhelmed with school. So I was like, maybe it's just school kind of getting to me. Maybe it's just not my health. But I was like, well, that doesn't explain the walking, So I was struggling a lot with the walking, and then my incontinence also kicked in too. And I was like, okay, something is clearly wrong with me, but I don't know what it is. It came a point where I actually diagnosed myself with a tumor. I feel like a lot of us MSers have done that at a point.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was really hard. So that entire year in second year in university, I'm like, okay, so if I have a tumor and if I'm going to pass away, why am I studying for my exams? Is literally what I thought, right? So I would go into exams and I just wouldn't study. So I would go in not knowing what the hell I'm writing down all my papers or my exams. I would fail that and I would just feel like an airhead because I also couldn't memorize anything because my memory was also declining. And then it just came a point, basically, my doctor was like, let me just get you a neurologist and maybe he can figure out something I can't. So then I was like, okay, cool. So I went to a neurologist and he asked me about my family history and stuff like that, but there was no correlation there for MS. So it was kind of like, okay, it's probably just in your head then, because it's like, why are you going through things right now? But it was just really frustrating for me because I was like, it's not in my head. Like I knew something was wrong, but it was really hard too because I was 19. So because I was young, I just felt like people always looked at me like I was just stupid because young people are not as small. Young people are not as smart as older people, right? Is what people would probably assume. And it was just really hard. I was like, I just didn't know what to tell myself. I just convinced myself I had a tumor the entire time. In my second year of university, didn't study for exams. Every time I would go to sleep, I would cry myself to sleep because I was so convinced I was going to pass away in my sleep because that's how bad things were getting to me. And then my neurologist, in the process of all this, my neurologist like, let's get you an MRI because maybe the MRI will show something, right? And at this point, I was a little nervous too because not because of the claustrophobia or anything like that, because I'm not claustrophobic, but I was nervous because I'm like, what if the what if the MRI doesn't pick up anything that I have, whatever it is that's going on in my brain, right? And I was really nervous about that. But when I went, it turned out that I had white lesions in my brain. So as my neurologist is telling me about this, he's like, well, you have some white matter going on. And I'm 19. I'm like, what the hell does white matter mean? I don't know.
Does it matter? Like, what is that?
Exactly what I said in my video where I talk about my multiple sclerosis journey. I was like, does that really matter? But my sister was actually with me and she goes, does she have multiple sclerosis? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's it. Like, I was actually really happy because for me, I convinced myself I was going to pass away. And I heard about multiple sclerosis and I knew it was going to be hard for me living with MS. But early on, I knew that I would have been grateful about having MS because it wasn't a tumor. I wasn't going to pass away. And a couple of days before my MRI as well, my hand went numb. And I convinced myself I had multiple sclerosis because I was like, this is MS. It has to be MS. And I laughed about it.
You get to a point where you're like, how can it be anything else? Like, I've read about it. How can it be anything else? I'm not being like over dramatic or
exactly.
It's clear a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like, I know I overthink things all the time. So I was like, maybe it's one of those moments, but I was like, no, but when my hand went numb, I was like, something is actually wrong. And then my vision was shaking a lot too. And then I started to notice my nystagmus where my pupils just don't align. And it's just the one thing. I've had MS for about 7 years now, right? And it's the one insecurity I have that I don't see ever going away. Because we started this call and I was like, do you see me like this? Yeah, it was,
I get that. I get that though, because I don't know, when it's like brain fog, when it's fatigue, or if it's mobility and you can just not go walk anywhere and no one sees that, you can kind of mask it and hide it quite well. But when it's things like Jay, for example, who's on Instagram as What a Beautiful MS This Is. She's been on the show. She's been on here before, and she. This is what happens with MS, don't you? I was trying to remember the name of the channel so much, and now I've forgotten why I brought her up. What were we talking about? This is what makes for great podcast material.
What were we talking about? I was like, honestly, you're asking the wrong person. I forget. I
know. But yeah, no, that's it, because she recently, so she's had MS for a few years now, and she's been like quite open about her journey as you have. And it's all of a sudden that she's started to notice that her speech has been affected. And I think when your speech is affected with MS, it's quite like obvious. It's not, it's different. It's like kind of slowing down and almost forcing the words out. And we were talking about it because I think that, and things like incontinence or like when you can see something, you can't hide it. And that's why I think people like we're more worried or cautious about stuff like that. So I completely understand that, but you seem to own everything so well. Like even seeing the stuff you post about incontinence for like a young empowered woman to be sharing things like that online, it's like that gives such comfort, I think, to other people who are going through the same thing and might be embarrassed or haven't really kind of got used to that part of their life yet. But it's not easy.
It's honestly, it was really hard even posting my very first video when I was doing a try on the diapers, because I knew people would either understand that I was going through incontinence, or some people were just going to really judge me for doing what I was doing. But I was also trying to embrace incontinence too. So I was kind of just putting it on social media, trying to help myself while trying to help other people. And I didn't really process that's what I was trying to do until just recently, like a couple of months ago, where I was like, this is exactly what I was trying to do. But a lot of people were very supportive with me. There was only like a couple of bad eggs in the basket, but yeah.
There's always going to be a couple, isn't there? I think is the exception to the rule. But I think what I've certainly found with the MS community, particularly, I think on like there's lots of us on YouTube that are doing like fun stuff and helping people, and I love that. And that was where I kind of started the same sort of thing, where I want to do this for me so I can process things, so I can deal with things, even if no one watches. I'm talking and I'm getting it off my chest. But
exactly.
I do find that it's a really good way of doing that and helping other people. But I find with Instagram as well, there's like a lot of engagement because it's easiest, I think, for people to comment and reply and stuff. That I found the MS community is like nothing else I've ever come across in my life, because everyone is just so supportive and understanding, because our whole lives we're dealing with people that either won't, or can't really understand what we're going through. But so I think the MS community is just, there's nothing like it.
It's honestly so awesome. Like, I remember when I was first going through symptoms with MS, I didn't have a diagnosis. I remember saying to myself, I was like, why do I have incontinence? No one else is going to be going through this. Why am I going through it? And then even with MS, it's like, why am I going through it? No one else is probably going through this. No one's talking about it, is what I thought then. And then it's like, fast forward to 6 years later, and there's like people talking about it, messaging me on Instagram, talking about MS, talking about incontinence, talking about other disabilities that kind of meet in the middle with MS and the symptoms with MS. And it's such a beautiful thing, because it's like, I just really thought I was alone, and I really wasn't. And it's a good feeling, but
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice that when that happens, isn't it? Because it's like there's so many people just stood behind closed doors, and it just takes one person to walk through, and everyone's like, "Oh, that made me too." Like, I didn't know anyone else was like this. And I guess that's the nature of the beast with MS as well, isn't it? Because here we are talking to each other, and our experiences will be so different. We could have a lot of the same symptoms, which will be different. Because we might suffer with the same thing, but on a different level. And then there'll be things that you might suffer with that I don't, and vice versa. And I guess that's why it's quite hard to diagnose. But I suppose touching back on your diagnosis story, it's like, I guess if we've got the thing of like hindsight and stuff, like how we can look back and go like, how are they taking so long? It's so obvious. But even at the time, you're not sure. But as a doctor, like as a medical profession, how is MS so hard to diagnose?
Yeah.
It's we just do think it's all crazy, and that we're fine. You know, you're not ill, or it's all in your head, or you're making it up, and you're, like you said, you're young. You know, it's just life's tough. Get over it. Like, and it shouldn't be that way.
It really shouldn't, because I actually felt like I was complaining for no reason. But I'm like, but this doesn't feel right. But I was so young, so it's like I just felt like no one's gonna listen to me. But yeah. Did
you almost like doubt yourself as well? If people are like dismissing you, and you're like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it is in my head. Maybe, you know, it's.
Yeah, I felt like maybe it is in my head, but then at the same time too, I was telling you about how I convinced myself I had a tumor. I was like, maybe I've already passed away, and maybe I'm just dreaming this moment right now. I was like, I don't know. It was just very traumatizing and scary.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's completely understandable. Like, that's not. You're not like crazy for thinking that, and if you kind of doubt yourself, or you doubt what people are telling you, and people are doubting you, it's horrible, because you know how you feel. Yeah, and like, exactly. I think a lot of us had that moment where we might have started to feel some symptoms and started to feel a bit different, but then there's that moment where you're like, no, this something's wrong here. Like, this is bad.
It's like, I know myself better than you know me. I know something is wrong, but
yeah, I know my life up to this point, and then something is not the same now. So help me, please. And it's like, you can walk 5 meters. So, oh, cool. Okay, I'll just walk 5 meters for the rest of my life then. Thank you. Nice one. See you later. I guess, I mean, at least I suppose we have the benefit of free healthcare in the UK and Canada. I guess you weren't just sort of like, well, here's all my money, thanks for nothing. You know, I imagine in other places it can be even more frustrating.
I feel like it's really frustrating for people in America, because they talk about paying for the infusions, and I was like, wow, I don't even have to pay for my infusions, and I feel bad complaining about these things. So I'm like, ooh.
but it's well within your right to complain about anything. Like, anything you feel is valid. Like, that you don't choose how you feel. Exactly. And if something's frustrating and something is scary or something is driving you mad, then that's completely valid.
Yeah.
If someone else's experience is different, well, that's not your fault. And okay, it's better to be frustrated about something that you're not paying for than frustrated about something you are paying for. But I guess that's a headache for another day, maybe. I don't know. I like the American healthcare system. yeah, I can't fully get it because I'm not used to that environment. And I know there's quite a lot of people who, certainly I know there's a good percentage of people that tend to jump on to my channel who are based in the US, and they've shared some of their experiences and Canada. And I imagine you'll be the same. You'll get quite a strong sort of North American following who'll all kind of have a different experience, but I don't know why it is that way. Like, it doesn't make
because
sense.
it's like there was a few people who have MS that were saying that they paid for their infusions, I think it was, and then I just felt uncomfortable where I was just like, how am I supposed to tell this person I get it for free? Because I'm
do you want some of mine? like you can have them. I don't know. So I just started my infusions like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you posted your video on the 25th, and I was like, I'm going to ask you in 6 months how you're feeling because you're on the open this. It's the most shittiest feeling, but I guess maybe it's going to be different for you. But yeah,
and that goes back, doesn't it? Like everyone, symptoms are different, experiences are different. Like it's all, there's no like, oh, you are going to feel this way. It's just you kind of have to suck it and see, don't you? And so I started on Tecfidera, then I was on Cladribine. And then now I'm starting Ocrevus, and that I've had my first like half dose. So it's my second half dose this coming Friday. What date are we on? It's the 30th of July, Tuesday. So whatever date it is on Friday, that's my next little batch. And I was all right with it, to be fair. They give you something before the Ocrevus kind of goes into the IV, and that kind of knocked me out. I just fell asleep. But then I woke up and I was just like sneezing loads, and my ears got really hot and itchy, and I was like, whoa. And that was at like the max strength that they kind of got to. And they were like, yeah, that makes sense. So I'll be interested to see what it's like on Friday, whether or not it's the same again.
Yeah.
And if it is, I suppose that makes me a little nervous for 6 months' time, if it's like the whole lot. But I don't know. I just kind of, you kind of have to get on with it, don't you? And that's...
Yeah, I want to ask you, because you said you were on, I noticed on YouTube, you talked about your first treatment you're on was Tecfidera. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but is that once a month?
Say again?
Is that once a month?
So Tecfidera you took twice a day. It was a tablet, basically. It's like a strong tablet. So you took one in the morning, one on a night. Again, there's loads of different side effects. People experience it differently. I would get like a hot flush. Like I had like a gel face mask in the fridge that I would just put on. I would stand outside because I would just be so warm. It was like bright red. But that was really like the only kind of side effect I think I noticed. But it didn't really work for me, and I had more progression. So then I went on to Cladribine, which I don't know. I always like to tell people it's a chemotherapy tablet they used to use for sickle cell leukemia, because I'm like, when you mention chemotherapy, people are like, oh, snap, like that, you must have something really serious. But so it was like the case you took it. You had like, you'd pop the tablets out of the packaging, and it was like, if this touches your work surface, like burn them, get rid of them. Like it's social, like bleach everything, shower and whatever. So it was pretty intimidating. But you took a tablet once a day for 5 days. Then nothing for 3 weeks, then another 5 tablets for 5 days, then nothing for 12 months, then the same again, and then 2 years of nothing, where you're in the treatment cycle, but you don't take anything. It was weird, but again, it didn't really work. So we're on to Ocrevus. But I've heard good things. I've not heard anyone say anything particularly off-putting about Cladribine. So.
Yeah. It was like, because you were on the pills and then you were taking it like every couple of days and stuff like that. So I wonder how much of a difference it's going to be with you with Ocrevus and having like huge gap, and then you get your infusion, and then huge gap again, and then
Well, people talk about they call it the crap gap, where it's like the bit before your next treatment, where it's like it should be a 5-month treatment, not 6, because that last month you can feel.
Oh, I'm already feeling it.
Oh man, I feel for you. I'm sorry. But then, like, people say, well, that it's like, that's impossible, because it's not like any MS treatment doesn't make you feel better, does it? Like, there's nothing that makes you feel better. It's only to stop it getting worse. So how do you then feel worse when you're waiting for the treatment? But then I'm like, it's a drug. Like you're getting withdrawal and side effects and this and that, and so like psychosomatic, it's all in your head. But like, I completely get how you're like, the drugs are leaving you, these super strong drugs are leaving your system, and you're waiting for the next one. You're going to feel rubbish. And that's like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like my eyes are already doing it. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no, don't worry. Oh, honestly.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, sorry.
Wait, infusions and like the whole like gap in the middle of not doing anything. I shared an article on my I'm going to say my Instagram a while back. Like there was an article over here that was talking about that they've developed an Ocrevus treatment that's like just in a shot. So they call it like jab and go, basically. Like you go to the hospital, bang, off you pop. That's you done, one and done. And I'm a bit nervous about that because I'm like, well, I'm just getting on the infusion. I want to be in the hospital surrounded by people who know what they're doing, who can help. Like, and I guess like 6 months, okay. I know there's some infusions that people get where they have them every month. And I don't know. I quite like being in the hospital because I'm like,
yeah, it's like you're under the right care.
Yeah, exactly. And it's free.
Yeah, that's you.
Don't tell anyone. But yeah, like, I think when you're going through stuff like that, it's more reassuring when you know that if something does go wrong or you start to feel funny or worse or whatever, that someone's on hand, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was put on Ocrevus since 2017, so it's been 7 years now. And some MSers say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky," and it's like, no, you don't get it. I don't feel any better. It's just I haven't relapsed. But
I mean, that's great for me to hear that you've had it that long and haven't relapsed. Like that is really reassuring.
I'm actually pretty happy to have it. But I mean, I don't remember what it's like to relapse. I mean, I don't want to remember, but I mean, things haven't gotten any better. But yeah. It's just it's preventing me from relapsing. So I mean, I guess Ocrevus is doing something right.
Yeah. And I guess people who perhaps don't fully understand, like everything they say is with the best interests at heart. Like they're trying to reassure you. They're trying to have a conversation about something they can't really understand, but they're like trying to be positive and like, oh yay, but you're like, kind of yay, I guess. I don't know. Like I would like to feel this rubbish forever and not any worse, I guess. But
it's like when I was first put on Ocrevus, I was on a clinical trial. So I was 19. I didn't know what that meant, but my nurse was telling me, no, you don't understand. You're helping other people that are trying to get put on Ocrevus, and then you're part of a study, right? And I was like, it's great that I'm helping other people, but can I just help myself for a moment? Like, I thought it was going to work. Like, I don't know. But luckily it did work. So I'm glad I was a part of that study, but for 5 years. But
it's a lot of pressure though. and like you said, I suppose, I guess if you're like, you're going through this experience yourself, you're stressed, you're worried, you're scared. And then they're like, oh, we're going to try this thing. We don't really know what it might do, but we'll see. And you're like, oh, okay.
I remember my neurologist telling me it's going to be promising, but then it's like, it just got approved by the FDA 2 months prior to my diagnosis. So how promising is this drug? Or am I just being used as a test study, like a test patient? Because I felt like a lab rat. You know, when they test lab rats? I felt like that was me. And I was like, I'm just going to take your word for it because I don't know what to do. But yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of and at that age as well. Like you said, you were only young when you were diagnosed. So you're really young. You've been fighting like doctors and people in your life trying to get them to understand how you feel, and then all of a sudden they're like, "We've just made this thing in a lab. Like we're gonna inject you with it for 6 hours every 6 months. Like, is that cool?" You're like, "What? You were just telling me I'm crazy, and now I've got to save the world. Like, what's going on?"
It's like I remember when I went for my first infusion. The first infusion, I remember being there for like I went at 9 a.m, and then it finished at 5 or 4 p.m. It was a little longer because I was also a part of the study. I was doing these tests and stuff like that, where they'll like test you for your memory. Like they'll give you like 6 shapes. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you weren't part of a study like this, but it was like 2 shapes. I've
had something similar, but not for Ocrevus. So I don't know.
Like 2 shapes here, 2 here, 2 here. I'll give you the paper for 15 seconds. Memorize what you see.
Yeah.
He takes away the paper, and I look at her, and I'm like, I don't remember anything. And in my head, I'm like, how am I at university? It was just it was scary.
But that's it. It's not you. That's like a clear indicator. You wouldn't have got to university if you weren't smart enough to do that. This is something different. This is something that's happening to you. So, last week I went for my blood work for my next lot of Ocrevus, like the tests they do before you have it. And just by absolute chance, I'd managed to get an appointment with like the neuropsychology department. Because I'd asked them to do it because I did the same sort of tests like 4 years ago. And it's more for like cognitive deterioration. Like, and I think it's like 4 years ago was like a benchmark. And it was like, we're going to test to see how much of an idiot you are. and then we'll test you in a few years time and see if you're like more of an idiot. And yeah, because it has that effect on your a lot on like the short term memory and processing and so, and I have ADHD as well, so that's a challenge anyway.
I
Like my
know
short term.
too.
Say
What
again?
from videos on YouTube? Because I was like, how is it dealing with ADHD and then MS? Is it like hard? I mean, I'm sure
So
it is.
I was diagnosed with MS in 2018, and because it was neurological, I think I put a lot of things I've struggled with down to MS. And I think you do that anyway. Like every time you get a cold, you're like, is it a cold? Am I
Yeah.
dying? What is
Yeah.
happening? So I think I was starting to like put a lot of it towards to being MS, but I was only finally diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, like 2 years ago. And it's understanding that actually these things have been affecting me my whole life. So it can't have been MS, or like I
Yeah.
would have known sooner. So I don't think the two are like well suited together because there's a lot of conflict. It's like I feel so tired and so like fatigued, yet I get these insane bursts of energy. It's like, I don't know. It's like putting a teenager who's just learned to drive in a car with no petrol. You're like, let's go. And you're like, no, no. So yeah, it's challenging, but I'm glad I got the diagnosis because I don't know whether or not it's more in males who are diagnosed with ADHD late. I think definitely a lot of females who go through this will feel the same as well. But I don't know. Like I've kind of felt my whole life that I was a bit of a failure. Like I was like, I was like a jack of all trades. I give something a go, but I always had to work a bit. It seemed I had to work harder to keep up with people, and things like the whole education system just didn't work for me. I was always distracted. I liked, like, I was like quite musical as a kid. Like I played in bands and played instruments and did gigs and stuff. It was like more the expressive, creative stuff. The academic side of things just really was hard. And
Yeah.
so kind of getting this diagnosis later in life, you're like, oh, okay. And it does give a bit of relief in the same way. Like I was exactly the same as you when I got the MS diagnosis. Like for everyone else, it was quite it was scary and upsetting, but that didn't hit me right away. For me, I was like relieved because like I'm not crazy. It is something. If it's something, we can do something surely. And then obviously it's time. I think it's like a grieving process, isn't it? With when you get diagnosed with MS, it's like you go through the whole like joy, sadness, worry.
Yeah.
You've like I don't know what I don't know what the stages of grief are, but you must go through them, I guess. And it can hit you a lot harder, kind of, or like a lot not harder, a lot later on, like after everyone else in your family or friends or whatever or colleagues have kind of gone through a lot of that. You perhaps haven't yet.
Yeah, it was like the grieving for me wasn't necessarily when I got my diagnosis. It was more so when I started to notice like my body just performing like an old person's body because I was like, I'm only 19. Why is my body doing this? But it was, it's like when I need to go to the bathroom, it's like, why am I not being able to hold it in? And it became very emotional for me and depressing because it's like I ended up having wet bum outside in public so many times, even to my university classes, and it traumatizes you because it's
Of
like,
course.
as an adult, you're not supposed to be having a wet bum. You're supposed to be able to go to the bathroom, right? But then it's like, but no one's talking about this. So that's why I'm kind of big on talking about incontinence too. Because it's like, I'm that person I was searching for 7 years ago.
I think that's why a lot of people who do like the whole YouTube thing end up doing YouTube because you kind of want to create the thing you were looking for. Like you just said, like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to know it was fine, that it wasn't normal, but it was our normal. It was normal for this to happen for people that have MS, and it's okay. Like there's others. I suppose it's hard for me to kind of fully understand that because for me it's not something I've experienced, but like I can completely see how. But I think particularly how young you were as well, and you're supposed to be like. Uni is like it's supposed to like the prime of your life. Like, like when you experience all these things, you become an adult, you go to parties and you do all this and that, and you're worrying about something that you don't really understand why it's happening.
It's like, I know when I was in university, everyone was going to parties, and I was like, I can't even stand for 5 minutes. Why am I going to a club? I never went to clubs. I just stayed at home, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit down, and I'll feel happier. But
this gives me joy. I'm still, nothing's going wrong. I can distract myself. But it's such a shame, though. I feel like you were robbed of that experience, and I suppose is that something that you kind of battle with?
I feel like I was robbed of the experience of just not having enough time to figure out what I wanted to do career wise, because I'm still trying to figure things out. Because I went into university doing early childhood studies, and that was a 4-year program. I stayed back a year, so my 5th year because of MS slowed me down a little bit. And then Teachers College in Canada is 2 years long. But while going through everything with MS, I always say this with so much pride, like I'm so happiness. But with going through everything with MS, I didn't have to stay in a program for Teachers College for 2 years, but I got into a competitive program that was 1 year long. So it made up for it. I was like, ooh, okay, so staying back a year wasn't so bad. I graduated at the same time I would have graduated. So it worked out.
That's incredible, and you should be proud. Like that, like non-MS, like people who have completely able bodies and brains would struggle to do that, and you were determined and achieved it. That's like, no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, it's like the one thing I always say to, not to make anyone feel bad, but it's just the one thing I always said to myself was, it was just like, I said it on the In Controls when I went to go do a video with them for the diaper company. I made this comment where I was like, at 19, I started university. At 23, I said this wrong. At 17, I started university. At 19, I had a multiple sclerosis diagnosis. And at 23, I didn't just have one, but I had 2 university degrees. Now, how many able-bodied people would be able to tell you that? And then I looked at me and he's like, oh, shit, okay. But yeah.
But how empowering is that? Like, and I don't know, like, I always say, like, is there some good to come out of MS? Like, sometimes there is, and experiences, like, we wouldn't be talking now, and there wouldn't be things that we've done or people we've met. And to do something like that and to share that with other people who are struggling, who might not be able to do those things, but some of them might, and they might not feel confident enough, but you might give them that confidence, and you think, well, like, if Pree can do it, then I'm going to try.
No, if I could do it, it's just, I don't feel like anyone else could do it, because I was quite depressed because I was doing it, but I just did it. I just wanted to stare at the 2 degrees on my wall every morning I woke up, and that's exactly what I see every morning when I wake up. So I'm like, that's
incredible.
Yeah, it's just paper, but yeah.
But it means so much more, and like,
yeah, it does.
It means so much because of not only what you achieved, but how you achieved it. I think is like, that is so incredible. How is your career then? You kind of touched on it initially, that you're still sort of figuring things out, and I guess MS can make things take longer, or you go through different routes. Have you kind of got to a point where you're able to do a sort of something that you wanted to, or is it still kind of holding you back a bit? Are you still figuring it out?
Oh yeah, so I was talking about how, like, you were talking about how, like, MS robs us of stuff and stuff like that, and I felt exactly like that, where I felt like MS robbed me of trying to figure out what I wanted to do career-wise, because sure, I have 2 university degrees, but I don't want to do anything with those 2 things, because I know you have 2 kids, okay? So, like, maybe it's different for you because you're working with your kids, but when you're dealing with a whole classroom of kids, it stresses me out. It stresses me out. I felt like I was causing more lesions in my brain, but I mean, I wasn't. But I honestly, kudos to you for being able to, like, deal with your kids, because working with kids is really hard. And I don't have kids, but I get it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, it just wasn't for me. It could be for other people. Yeah. It's fine, but it wasn't for me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So when I left university, I remember being at 1.5K subscribers on YouTube. And I was like, I still want to grow, is what I kept thinking in my head, right? But I was like, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, because I was stuck at 1.5 for a very long time. And that's when I started talking about incontinence. And then I was like, I started to notice that my subscriber count just jumped a lot.
Yep.
And I was like, why is it jumping a lot? Maybe because people want to see me in a diaper. But I was like, I don't really want I don't care for that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like,
get the wrong type of subscribers. Like, we don't want those.
So I didn't want that or anything like that, right? But then it was like, for me, it was like, it's because I had that voice that everyone was so afraid to have with incontinence. And I started to realize that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to reach more people by like the incontinence stuff, because no one's really talking about incontinence, or like the way I was talking about it. People just like the way I say things, I guess, from what people said to me. But yeah, and then I noticed my subscriber count just completely jumped, like, really quickly, and I was like, oh shit, I should talk about this when I first started doing videos on YouTube. But yeah, so it's like right now, I honestly, career wise, I don't know what I'm doing, but all I know is that I want to do something that makes me feel happy. I want to continue doing what I'm doing on social media, kind of seeing where things go. I landed 2 partnerships this year, which I thought was a big
Amazing.
deal.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it was really exciting for me because I got to film videos and stuff like that for them as well. And then now I'm on my very first podcast. It's been a really good year. So
Well, it's an
yeah,
honor
yeah.
to have you on and to be giving you giving us your time. Uh, I love YouTube. Like I kind of did before I realized that when I think there's like that whole, I don't know how to say this, but like I feel like I'm just a little bit older than the generation of like, ooh, I could be a YouTuber.
Honestly,
It
you
makes
don't
me
look
feel a bit
it.
older. I'm like, oh, I'm going to give the kids a run for the money in the YouTubes. But they talk like I could talk to you like a completely different podcast just about YouTube because I enjoy it. And they always talk about finding your niche. And I guess MS is like, that's my niche. That's what I talk about. That's what my channel's about. But I guess I would put down a lot of your growth on YouTube down to like the niche within a niche because you've got such I don't know how to, I never know the right words to use. Like there's something that you talk about that within the MS community, people, even those that want to talk about MS, are a little afraid to talk about, or maybe
Yeah.
a little embarrassed to talk about. And I completely understand that. So when they see someone like yourself who not only has MS but is really embracing and talking with such like confidence and assertion about something that they worry about, I completely see how you become like this role model, this figurehead for people that struggle with that. And like I can only see your channel. And again, maybe we're getting off topic from MS to just focusing on YouTube. Like, but I only see like if you gave it no more effort than you are putting in now, if you just kept doing the same thing that you're doing now, you're just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And I think there'll be things when you'll decide to try something different, or like, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a very angry
On my
van outside beeping somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, but this would normally be something that would lose my train of thought, but no, and it might still have. But yeah, there will be things like we're doing podcast content. Like I'll send you some of this footage. You might share that. That might see a spike. You might start talking about something else. That might see a spike. And I think it's something that if you were like, I am going to be a YouTuber and like not just a YouTuber, but a disability advocate, you're going to get more opportunities, partnerships, public speaking, maybe if that was something you were interested in, or like campaigning, stuff like that. I think your channel is just going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And it's like, I'm so excited just to see that happen for you. Cause I think like what you've done already is just amazing. And the more success that you have, the happier hopefully that might make you, but the more people you will help.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, and one day we'll catch up, and they'll just behind you there. There'll be a little gold plaque just to.
Wait. What are you talking about? Sorry, I forgot what you're talking
The
about.
YouTube plaque. So, like when you hit, is it 100K and then 1 million subscribers, you get
Yeah.
So you have one of those in your videos. I see it in your future.
I mean, like, I honestly, I don't see it just because I'm not even at 10K yet. But yeah.
I think from what I gather, though, like for a lot of people, you get that kind of like a bit of growth, then you might hit the single 1,000 figures. Then it's 10. I think from 10 onwards, it really ramps up because YouTube's like, hey, this is good.
I noticed that with Life of Seb. I was like,
Yes.
yeah, people growing too. I really love his content.
He's so nice. Like I was really like really lucky to be able to chat with him on here, and we've kept in touch, and I think probably I should make a bit more an effort to keep more in touch. But he's such a nice guy, and his journey is like incredible, and yeah, I love the stuff he's doing. So it's nice when we're all supporting each other, and it's like, yeah, we can see some success.
Yeah, we got this.
Exactly. So with YouTube, then, like obviously you were talking about like the things you started to see, and when you changed conversations and saw growth spikes and stuff. But like, what drew you to? And again, I know we touched on earlier about it was a way for you to sort of deal with things as well, and it's almost like a one-way. Like therapy, isn't it? I guess YouTube. Yeah. It's a therapist that doesn't ask any questions.
It's a way to post things, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But what made you think like I think I'm gonna start posting on YouTube?
So for me, I was thinking to do YouTube like when I was in high school, but I just never did because I was bullied a lot. No one liked me. And then I was just like, oh, okay, so I can't do YouTube because I don't feel like people liked me at the time. And then,
It's crazy to hear.
sorry, what was your
Like,
question?
what drew you to YouTube? And you were saying that you wanted to give it a go before MS.
Yeah. Before MS, I wanted to give it a go, but then I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And then MS hit, and I was like, oh, maybe this could be something. But I'm like, but my sisters told me not to do it because she's like, Pree, you've already been bullied so much. It was really bad too because I went through like this whole suicidal phase as well.
Oh man.
Like, Pree, just don't do it. You're gonna get bullied even more. But funny enough, like social media has been nothing but supportive since day one. Like, sure, there's like a few people that say weird things, but vast majority of them are like so supportive, like from the MS community, the incontinent community, the community of people who just like guess wear diapers because they like wearing diapers. And then there's just a lot of communities that were just so supportive, and it just it just drew me to this. And then I was just like, wow, I really didn't think people were going to like me online because no one really liked me in person. So
that's horrible to hear that because like from subscribing to your channel and seeing the things you do, like you're such a likable person, you're so positive and energetic, and when you have every reason not to be any of those things because of what you live with. So like it's horrible to hear that, and it made you feel that way, and I'm so glad that years later we are having this conversation and it didn't kind of go down that route. And I guess like I suppose you were touching on the like having kids, like they're at the age now where my little girl will come home from school sometimes and say, so-and-so said that we're breaking up as best friends and she doesn't want, and then she pushed me, and then you're like, oh, it's so hard to explain, but it's like the world is full of bad apples, and just if you find one, just move on to someone else. You will find your people. And and it just took, and I know you're like, I need something to talk about YouTube, and the YouTube gods are like, have MS, and you're like, no, not that one, something else. But you've gone down that journey and you've lived that experience and you've found your people.
I'm really happy, but yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Like, I really am, because like, understandably, as I know a lot of people who go through the MS journey, and I think my ADHD probably had a big impact on that. Like, I have had similar troubles, like similar thoughts. I guess the stresses, the worries, and anything else in life can make you feel that way. And I'm lucky that I was able to deal with it in a way that I did, and I am still here. And I guess my kids kind of keep me strong and keep me going. But I think it's important to talk about as well, because I'm not saying we're going to talk about that now, but like it's great to hear you able to talk about that, and that two people can have a conversation and not know the other one had ever felt that way, but then we're like, we can be there for each other. And hopefully if anyone is listening that is feeling that way, they may take some solace in the fact that it's years later and you're in a much better place that you wouldn't have been able to be in had things gone differently. So like, again, that's something that I think you should be really proud of, because that's not like a throwaway thing to say. Like, that's serious, and you're here, and that's like, the most important thing.
It's like, sorry, I feel like I'm always interrupting you.
Not all. I have ADHD. I do it all the time. Please carry on. If you interrupt me, I can catch my breath from talking too much.
Oh.
No, go on. Sorry.
No.
Although I imagine we've both forgotten what we're talking about now. I'm going to stop talking. Sorry.
You were talking about something, and I was like, I was going to expand on that, and I forgot what you were talking about.
I'm so sorry. You mentioned interrupting, and then I said a lot of stuff to interrupt you, and then
I was like, wait, stop talking. I'm going to forget what I'm saying. I was going to be like, I know some people hate hearing this, but it's just, I really do feel like things happen for a reason. And why I'm saying it like this, and like the way my life has gone, is because had I not gone through bullying, I don't think I would have had thick skin for when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I just feel like that's one of the reasons I went through that, because it's like, you know, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and then it's like I was so scared that I was going to pass away, but then it's like I was fearing passing away now, like at that point when I got diagnosed, but then when I was younger, I was just so I was just like, I just wanted to kill myself. I just don't want to be here anymore. And it's like, it was just so interesting how everything just completely changed. And that was when I realized I was valuing my life. And MS made me realize that. And I was like, wow, things are happening for a reason then. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I've thought similar things where like, I don't think everything happens for a reason, but I think a lot of things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's the hard time. Like there's that cliche phrase, isn't it, that tough times make tough people. But I think there's a lot of truth in that, because I think MS has given me a lot of resilience. Like I am, like with other things beyond MS happen to me, I feel able to take it on the chest kind of thing. Yeah. And I guess that was the same for you, where you went through something awful and you literally survived that experience, but it's given you strength, determination, resilience, that then when you were faced with this challenge, I say challenge is something you can kind of overcome and win, isn't it? But this whatever this is, you were able to do that. So I can completely see that with you, and it's I even forgot what I was talking about mid-sentence, but no, like I think that you've gone through a hell of a lot in a short space of time, and life, I guess, is all about figuring it out, and there's no time frame on that, and you've got your whole life to decide what's going to happen. But these little experiences and big moments can set you up for that.
Yeah.
It's getting deep, isn't it? We're getting deep.
No, I love this conversation. I didn't realize the time was going by so fast, but yeah.
It's nice to hear. No, so this will be on YouTube, of course, and I'll get some of the footage for you to share as well, because I think these types of conversations, and it's nice sometimes for someone else who has MS just to listen to other people talking about their experiences, and there'll be things they can relate to and things that they perhaps didn't know, and it's helpful to understand. One thing I do like to ask, typically towards the end of a catch up, and I guess we are kind of, like you said, time is flying. But if you could go back in time to when you were first diagnosed, so was it 17-year-old Pree?
No, sorry, 19.
19, okay. Yeah, 19-year-old Pree, who's in a second year of uni, who doesn't know what the hell's going on.
When I started university, because I started university at 17, I got diagnosed at 19.
Okay.
I mean, that's wrong, but yeah.
Teenage Pree. If you could go, we'll cover it. If you could go back to sit with yourself, who's just been diagnosed, what advice, or what would you tell them about what's to come?
Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm like, can you just repeat that question one more time?
Okay, we're in a room that you've just been diagnosed with MS. What would you say to your 17, 18, 19 teenage self?
I would have told myself I've been through a lot growing up as a kid. I could get through this too. I might not see it now, but I'll see it one day. But yeah.
That's good. Do you think you would have taken some reassurance in that? Or would you have been like, shut up, Pree, this is horrible?
Well, I mean, no, I feel like I would have taken my word for it, but I probably would have still cried about it. But yeah.
Yeah. And you would have had every right to. Yeah. And I guess a similar kind of question, like what advice would you have for, if there's anyone watching this who's just been diagnosed or recently been diagnosed, who's at that stage where they don't know what's going to happen, they don't know what to expect, what advice would you give to them?
Well, if it's before a diagnosis, just don't Google things, because you're going to Google things that are going to kill you. That was scary. Yeah. But if after diagnosis, I think the biggest thing is just find your people, find a community that's going through what you're going through, because it really does go a long way, especially with the MS community, because when you're able to connect with people that go through what you do, it makes you feel less alone. And then it just makes you feel like maybe, it just makes you feel better about having what you do. Yeah.
Community, I think, nail on the head there, that when you get diagnosed, it's like one of those moments in a film where you're everything just becomes this, and you don't know what's happening. You can feel very isolated and alone and scared, but there is a big community out there of people who've got you back, and no one has to go through MS alone, because like I said, I think we both sort of will say on the content we share, like we're always only a comment away, a message away, or a reply or whatever. Like if anyone ever struggles, there's always someone we can talk to.
Yeah, and it's like, it's to add on to what you were saying, where I was saying, where I was like, you know, find people, like find a community like the MS community, because they'll be able to relate to your struggles. But there's also other disabilities out there where they go through symptoms that we also go through too, and it might be harder finding those people. But I mean, yeah, that's something. So
yeah, no, you're right. I posted recently using a stick, like a cane for the first time. Like
yeah,
first time I've ever really shared that. And I have had a few people message or follow who don't have MS, but they are users of, like, they have a disability where they do need a walking aid or some support. And I guess you might have a particular thing about your MS or about whatever it is you're going through that you're worried about. And there's a community for, like you with the incontinence. Like,
yeah.
there's people who are going through that don't have MS, but they love what you share and the things you talk about, and they feel empowered because of you. So you found that community as well.
Yeah. It's been great, honestly. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to see you smiling and to be in such like what appears to be a lot happier place, and you've been through a lot, and the fact you're sharing all that on your channel and on Instagram and things is amazing to see. And I hope, and I know that there will be a lot more people who will come across your content and be really, really grateful for it. So please keep doing it. And this will be posted on this whole podcast episode will be posted on my channel. If people who are watching want to check out your channel, do you know the username, the URL, the link? Where can people find you?
I was like, wait, are you putting the link underneath the video?
I will. It'll all be on there. Yeah, so a link will be in the comments or in the description. It'll pop up on screen. But yeah, if you want to just shout it out, I guess, if you know it. Like, what's your handles? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me, like, just search in BumblePree. Like, I'm BumblePree on Instagram, BumblePree on YouTube. Those are the only two platforms I have, though. But yeah, I feel like I talk about it a lot, though. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good to, like, a lot of people who are like social media influencers or businesses or whatever, they'll be on everything, won't they? But I like YouTube. I like Instagram. I think the two work well together, and you're not like so stressed out.
Are those the only two you have too?
Yes and no. So they're the only two I really use. I do have, I think there's a Facebook, I have like a bit of a Facebook page group thing that I was trying to like build a bit of a support kind of group. Mm-hmm. And I do occasionally post on TikTok, but TikTok's not, I don't know. I just can't get, I feel like I'm too old for TikTok. I don't know. Like,
I honestly never thought you were old. I think it's just you think you're old, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's my own, my own perception. I'm 35 and a half, I guess. That's not too old. I feel like MS may age me a little, but yeah, I don't know. I think you find what you like, don't you? And I feel like I've got a home and a place on YouTube and Instagram. I feel comfortable there. Yeah, and that's important. You have to feel comfortable, don't you? You don't want to feel like you're throwing something out on a platform and potentially going to get a big backlash from horrible people.
Yeah.
But it's been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for jumping on and telling your story and talking about something that I haven't really been able to shed much of a light on because it's not an experience I've gone through. So I know there'll be people out there who'll hear your story and really relate to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know how to end these.
I don't know how to end phone calls. I'm like, okay, bye.
No, but I guess I can just talk to the camera. So thank you for checking out the MS Mindset. Please go check out Pree on YouTube and Instagram. There'll be links in the comments. BumblePree. There'll be links here, there. I don't know which. There'll be somewhere. And there'll be more episodes in the pipeline. So please do subscribe. I hate saying that. Please just like and subscribe if you haven't already. Apologies for the kind of the downtime on the MS Mindset, but it's great to get people like Pree to jump on and to be able to do these again because they're a lot of fun. So see you in the next video. And Pree, thank you so much.
Thank you.